Hello everyone and welcome to Ticker.com's news channel on YouTube. On this channel, we review stock markets, discuss financial news, market trends, and economic data from Wall Street to Global Street. So let's dive in. We will begin our review of global economy with key releases in the US, Europe, and China. Inflation news dominated in the US, the UK, and the Euro area. Investors also welcome the unexpected increase in new home construction in the U.S., the decline in the trade deficit in Japan, and the surge in auto sales in India. Japan's economy contracted at a faster pace in the third quarter, and inflation in India dropped in October. Now we will focus on two key inflation reports. The annual rate of U.S. inflation in October fell to 3.2% from 3.7% in September and August, but the monthly inflation measure was unchanged from the previous month. Inflation eased largely because of a sharp decline in energy prices. Core inflation, which strips off volatile food and energy prices, rose 4% from a year ago and edged up 0.2% from the previous month, indicating stubborn and well-anchored inflation in the broader economy. Euro area inflation was confirmed at 2.9% in October, Eurostat reported Friday. Consumer price inflation was the lowest since July 2021, reflecting a decline in energy prices and a slowdown in food price inflation. Core inflation, which excludes food and energy prices, dropped to 4.2% in October from 4.5% in September. We now shift our attention to global financial markets. The yield on the 10-year U.S. Treasury dropped to a two-month low after three reports suggested the easing of inflationary forces. Gold jumped 2.5% after falling for the second week in a row and rose to $1,981 per ounce after Treasury yields and the dollar eased. Crude oil declined 2% and fell for the fourth quarter in a row after U.S. supplies and inventories rose and on uncertain outlook for demand growth in China. Natural gas prices in Europe fell 1% to $44.80 per megawatt hours and fell for the fifth week in a row because of full storage, strong LNG supplies, and tracking lower crude oil prices. The euro hovered at $1.08, the level last seen in mid-September after the dollar declined on receding worries of interest rate hikes. The yen hovered at the 150 level as investors worried that the deferring interest rate stance between the U.S. Federal Reserve and the Bank of Japan may lead to more currency weakness. The S&P 500 index and the Nasdaq composite extended the previous week's gains in the hopes of rate stability after three reports confirmed the easing of inflationary pressures. European markets extended gains for the second consecutive week after Eurozone inflation dropped to a two-year low of 2.9%. Market indices in Tokyo surged despite the fact that the third quarter GDP contracted more than expected, and the Bank of Japan confirmed that it will continue its ultra-loose monetary policy until inflation reaches a sustainable 2% level. Chinese markets advanced after industrial output and retail sales in October were ahead of market expectations. We now review the latest earnings release, and several retailers and tech companies dominated the headlines. Macy's jumped 8% after the apparel retailer reported better than expected earnings because of a decline in inventories and higher margins. Gap Inc., the specialty apparel retailer, reported better than expected third quarter results, but offered a bleak holiday sales outlook. Home Depot advanced 4% after the specialty retailer reported better than expected quarterly results and issued a muted outlook. Bath & Body Works, the candle and fragrance retailer, reported better than expected quarterly results but offered a mixed outlook for holiday sales. Target Corp soared 14% after the retailer reported positive quarterly results and quarterly sales declined less than expected. TJX Companies traded sideways after the apparel and household goods retailer reported positive quarterly results, but the company's guidance fell short of some investors' expectations. Sally Beauty Holdings jumped 18% after the specialty retailer reported a slight decline in quarterly revenue, but ahead of market expectations. Ross Stores soared 8% after the off-price retailer attracted inflation-wary consumers, and quarterly sales rose 8%, comparable store sales increased 5%, and the company raised its full-year earnings outlook. We now review company earnings that disappointed investors. Applied Materials, an advanced chip equipment maker, reported flat revenue and net income increased, and the company distributed $3.2 billion to shareholders in the first fiscal year. Stock declined after the company disclosed a criminal investigation by the Department of Justice. Walmart dropped 6% after the retailer reported positive quarterly results but offered weak holiday sales outlook. Cisco Systems plunged 10% after the networking equipment maker reported strong quarterly results but said product order growth is likely to slow down. Palo Alto Network declined 6% after the cybersecurity company reported better than expected quarterly results, but the company's new orders or billing outlook fell short of market expectations. ChargePoint Holdings plunged 30% after the electric vehicle charging network operator lowered its third-quarter sales outlook and blamed the decline on delivery delays in fleet and commercial vehicles. Advanced Auto Parts declined 5% after the specialty retailer reported mixed quarterly results and lowered its free cash flow and diluted earnings per share outlook sharply. HelloFresh plunged 22% after the meal kit provider lowered its adjusted earnings outlook and narrowed its revenue growth estimate, citing production challenges at its facility in Arizona. Burberry Group, the luxury products retailer, Luxury Fashion Group, issued a revenue warning for the fiscal year 2024. Investors will be looking ahead to earnings from Best Buy, Dollar Tree, Lowe's, and tech companies including NVIDIA, Autodesk, Dell, Analog Devices, and Zoom. On the economic front, investors anticipating the FOMC meeting minutes, Germany's GDP estimate, and the PBOC in China's loan rate decision. You can read daily U.S. and global financial market news, earnings calendar, stock movers, and economic updates on ticker.com and 123jump.com. You can also get latest financial books on Redera.com and keep up with financial industry events on eventsinamerica.com. That is all for today, and we will see you next week.